Hi, it's Dr. Lori, and I'm here with Thrifting News. Did you hear the Mona Lisa got trashed? We're going to talk about it. Queen Elizabeth II, well, do all those collectibles for her Platinum Jubilee, 70 years on the throne, do they live up to the hype? And if you've got grilled cheese sandwiches, you might be able to buy some artwork. Oh, and Martha Stewart too. Let's get to it. So a man dressed up as a woman in a wheelchair wearing a wig, threw a piece of cake at the Mona Lisa this week. Luckily, the bulletproof glass stopped any damage or vandalism to the actual painting, but in fact, it caused quite a stir at the Louvre Museum in Paris. And everybody talks about the Mona Lisa, and most people don't know why the Mona Lisa is important at all, and why do we even care so much about this particular portrait of the wife of a Florentine Italian merchant. The painting was painted by Leonardo da Vinci, most people know that, and it was painted between 1503 and 1519. Why such the long time period? He kept painting it over and over again. He kept looking at it and going over it with thin application of oil glazes that Leonardo did oftentimes. The painting's oil on poplar panel. People are surprised to hear that it's not on canvas. It's actually on wood. And it's about 20 by 24 inches. Okay, so that's the specs on it. Why is she important? Here's why she's important. She changes the face, she changes, for the pun, she changes the face of portraiture. The way in which she's positioned is breaking with tradition of portraiture. Prior to that, portraits were usually done in profile. You didn't usually see a three-quarter body portrait where the sitter is looking straight at the viewer, sort of in a position where one shoulder is sort of moved forward. That was a big deal. And it was a big deal because it showed more of a naturalism to the sitter. So portraiture became a little bit more natural. Leonardo da Vinci had some skills too, so that helps because he really had an understanding of the musculature and of course the bone structure of the face and the head and the skull. So he was able to paint that. He also highlighted some of the fashion elements of the time. One of the fashionable things of the time was actually to pluck out, and you can see how round her face is, to pluck out the hairline to make a nice circle of the face. That becomes extremely important. Also remember, if you've noticed it, if you look carefully, she has no eyebrows. Also part of the fashion statement for the Italians in the 1500s. It's a beautiful piece. It's still in good shape. The gentleman who threw the cake at the plexiglass was escorted from the museum. And of course, the highly valuable and very well-known famous work of art is in good stead. And the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, that 70 years on the throne serving her country, serving her empire, I guess I should say. Queen Elizabeth II, of course, will celebrate the Platinum Jubilee. And the collectibles, the souvenirs, the gifts that are associated with it, well, the Center for Retail Research says that Brits will actually spend 356 million, that's million, on, of course, these types of collectible items associated with the Platinum Jubilee. I wonder if it's worth it. So things like, Corgi Ornaments, because of course she loves the Corgi dogs, and of course, Barbie dolls in the form of Queen Elizabeth, Swatch Watches that highlight Queen Elizabeth, Wedgwood items. Wedgwood items, of course, were made for her coronation in 1952 when she took, of course, the throne as a young woman. And Wedgwood has made tea sets and other pieces relating to, of course, the coronation ceremonies. For years, they've been planning, of course, the Jubilee. And in fact, it's interesting to me, a little insight. I lived in London for a time. I worked for the BBC, and I have to say, like, the Americans are really enamored with everything royal, and the Brits are, interested in it, but not to the extent where it's sort of always on their minds. They go about their day the same way the royals go about their day. A little bit different, I guess, with the jewelry. But anyway, when I worked for the BBC, I remember that the kind of collectibles that I would think about that I'm still looking for is something that I lost a long time ago. I worked there as a young person, and I worked actually and got to meet Peter Jennings. You may remember, of course, the reporter who reported from London in the late 1980s. He drew me a map because I needed directions, so he drew me a map of a portion of London that I was unfamiliar with. and I can't find the map. You know, ever do that? You have something you really care about and you're trying to look for. Well, that's the British collectible that I'm still looking for, you know, around my basement. But anyway, having said that, the Jubilee souvenirs are, you know, many, 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 and even to the point, so many that many of the online shops are actually suspending trading, suspending shopping online for these items because they're concerned that they won't have enough for the actual Jubilee. But basically, you're not going to be able to get a lot of these pieces online. If you have pieces that relate to, of course, the British monarchs, probably a good time to sell them. My other point about the Brits, I've got to say, one other thing. What I always say about the Brits is the family drama is really what's fun about the Brits. My favorite's Harry. I think Harry is a lot of fun, interesting guy. And now, he moves to the United States, you don't hear anything about Harry. So I really would like to know, like when they come back for the Platinum Jubilee, where does Harry stay? And what are we going to do? And what's going to happen there? I don't know. I would like to see a little bit more information about that. The collectibles, maybe they need some Harry collectibles. Maybe that's what we should be collecting. And this story about a restaurant owner who sold a painting for a grilled cheese sandwich. That's right, exchanged a grilled cheese sandwich for a painting. She had made deals in the 1970s with lots of her local fellow business people. She made a deal with her local florist. She would trade lunch for flowers that could be used in her restaurant, and she traded dinner for, of course, handyman work in her restaurant. This kind of thing. So this was not uncommon. She also made a deal with a local artist who would actually want a grilled cheese sandwich. The only thing that he really wanted was this grilled cheese sandwich that she used to make. And he would trade art from his own studio or art that was made by some of his friends. So they make this particular deal, and one of the works of art that's traded for the grilled cheese sandwich is an art by a Canadian folk artist named Maude Lewis. Maude Lewis is painting pictures of rural Nova Scotia landscapes in the folk art style, not unlike Grandma Moses in the United States. And she's painting these paintings. She makes this particular painting of the black truck. And this gets traded in the 1970s for, of course, the grilled cheese sandwich. Trades the painting. The painting ends up in the chef's son's bedroom. And this particular piece sold recently at auction for $273,000 US, which is $350,000 Canadian. So that's a lot of grilled cheese. The trades are not unusual in, of course, with artists and moving their artwork in different ways. And this particular work of art really caused quite a stir. Why is it so important? Well, it's a major work by a female artist of the early 20th century. And Maude Lewis, very, very humble beginnings, very, very poor artist, worked throughout the early years of the 20th century. She lives from 1901 to 1970. And her works are in major collections and museums, and this particular work was one that has not been seen prior. Oftentimes she's known for just landscape pieces and not landscapes with figures like this. So the truck is unusual for her. It's a departure for the artist. And the fact that the piece was not exhibited or well known is also interesting. The story of the grilled cheese sandwich has a lot to do with it too, but I will say that it's a really wonderful work. Bright colors, primitive style, very typical, and a work by a female Canadian artist. So that's why it sold for so high, and of course it's causing quite a stir. And Martha Stewart, yeah, she had a tag sale. Now, I wanted to be clear about this. A tag sale, she's in New England, New York, New Jersey. We call them tag sales. We don't call them yard sales. We don't call them garage sales. They're tag sales because we put a tag on everything. I don't know, anal, I guess. I have no idea. But basically, tag sale. So she's having a tag sale, and they're filming it for ABC, the network, and it's going to help promote her new book, and there you go. So, but basically what was sold at the tag sale is kind of interesting. She did it outside of her farm in Bedford, New York, upstate New York, about an hour from New York City. And lots of people were invited, celebrities were invited, Blake Lively and Jimmy Fallon and Kris Jenner, a couple, the celebrities were there. But regular folks were there too to get, some items to choose from, chairs lined up on the grasses and, baskets and jadeite, silver, textiles, beaded purses, a lot of the stuff that she sort of made come of age in the late 1980s. So she's cleaning out a house. She's got a lot of things, and she's, of course, saying that, oh, I've stored all these things, and now it's time to let go. Well, she's 80. She looks great. I think she looks great. And, she's getting rid of a lot of her things. A couple of things that, I think of when I see these particular items. A lot of it is sort of run-of-the-mill stuff. And what I think of with Martha Stewart is I think of what doesn't have a tag on it, She bought a beautiful Derby 1815 dessert set from the auction at Christie's of David and Peggy Rockefeller. She paid $100,000 plus for it. I don't think that's got a tag on it. So I don't think you're going to be able to get something like that from her collection. But again, the pieces that she put out are many and varied, but of a particular time, sort of her heyday, right? Of the late 1980s and early 1990s, when you saw her everywhere, when, she was on TV, morning TV every week, and when she was, of course, doing her magazine and such. But basically, the tag sale did some good, too, and it actually raised about $800,000 for basically Mount Sinai Hospital in New York, where the Martha Stewart Center helps with assisted living for adults, for senior adults. So it does some good, but she's getting out a lot of stuff. It reminds me of Oprah's big auction. Oprah had a yard sale style auction a couple of years ago. So they get to this point where they're deciding that they're going to sort of get rid of all of their stuff, and we should be very excited about it. I think a lot of people wanted the sentimentality of, I want something that actually was in Martha's house. It could be in your house. So Martha had a tag sale, not a yard sale. And of course, you can watch it. I watched it, and basically it was interesting. It was interviews about her. What really stirred me was when she said, I'm not sure about what I'm doing with my jewelry yet. So I look forward to hearing more about that. So that's the latest thrifting news. Hey, do you have a news story that you think I should comment on? I want to hear about it. Let me know about it. I'm Dr. Lori. I'll see you next time.